I'll let you go ahead. I don't know if we got everybody. Looks like we've got a pretty good group. Good to see your face, Lorianne. Awesome. It looks like a couple more folks are still coming. So as they get on, I just want to let everybody know we are um, combining a couple things. Usually, as you all know, most of you have been here for a while. Our state of the school is sort of a separate, independent thing. But in the interest of your time and the ability to be in one place at one time, we thought we'd go through the state of school just to give you an overview. And for you all, it's going to be a pretty quick overview of the state of school, and then we'll get into what you all have forward to look forward to in eighth grade. So I'll go ahead and start. We always start with our vision and mission. Your children, literally, next year, are the vision of our school. So as you look at this, you are looking, and you may not believe this as I say it, but confident, courageous, compassionate leaders. As you think about that for your own child, leadership is one of those things that we define not necessarily as the front of the bow, the loudest, the one pointing where we're going to go. But as you all have been steeped in middle school, having your children understand that they're what makes them unique is what makes them a leader. So the things that they're different at are the things that they excel at, and that should make what they're a leader about. And that creates a diversity that we've all become accustomed to here at St. Benedict's, and it's grounded in faith. And the teachers who are about to share with you what you get to look forward to next year, they're the embodiment of our mission. Every day they are inspiring learning, they're nurturing growth, of course, not only academically, but social, emotionally, and in their faith. And then this next Venn diagram sort of outlays the Episcopal education. You all know this very well. Two blue circles are what it means to be an Episcopal school. No matter where you go to, from East Coast to West Coast, North or South, you will find these two blue circles as an embodiment of an Episcopal education. And then at St. Benedict's, the collaborative learning environment they have come together to create that academic excellence. So our strategic plan, as you remember, I don't know if we need to go into this, Anne, but we have a slide that's going to describe a little bit more about outplacement, and Anne will go into that. But you all have experienced this as you sort of look through the bullet points. We can move on to the next slide for this one. Hopefully, your children are looking at one of those schools. Take a close look, and I'll go into that a little more in depth. But these 8 objectives that we have accomplished since you've been here, most of you, if you joined recently, these are the 8 objectives we laid out in 2018, and we are really close to accomplishing each one of these. Enrollment has started, as you know, and that's part of this. And marketing, who's coming into our classroom, is a big piece of this. So as you look at those bullet points, we've added one employee to sort of carry us through each one of these bullet points. And as you think about marketing, it's not just a pretty color or good social media, but it's about who's sitting next to your children in the classroom. And I don't know that we have any applications yet for the 8th grade, but we usually get 1 or 2. So think about that as you're thinking about the next step. Some of your friends who are looking for uh, a good plan for next year. Cobb County, well, I'll leave my opinion to itself. I've got 2 children there, and I know what I think about it. Enrollment has started. So if you all are re-enrolling, please take a look at this. Financial aid, here are the dates. You all know this rhythm pretty well. If you are in carpool tomorrow, which none of you will be, unless you haven't picked up your packet yet, and then we will hand out a sign that looks just like this. And if you would like to pick up a sign, we'll have them in the middle school building. So come by, Crystal will hand you one. You can put that sign up in your front yard. If you can't do that because you're HOA, share a little bit about St. Benedict's on Facebook or Nextdoor. Obviously, if you have a chance to talk to your friends, let them know about St. Benedict's. Here's our after school summer programs. Those will be rolling out on Wednesday, so get online quickly. Wednesday is the date to enroll. We've got some good offerings for the middle school this year. Fundraising, you all are accustomed to this. Your tuition doesn't pay for the full operating budget at St. Benedict's. The last 3 or 4% that gets covered is from the Acorn Fund. We've got some exciting things coming up next year from the Acorn Fund. Your ability to give at the percentages that you have been giving since you were at St. Benedict's have allowed us to do all kinds of incredible things. Next year, we're continuing our initiative in diversity and inclusion. Dr. Tiffany Russell, who's a fellow parent in this grade, has been guiding us through a lot of these initiatives from 2 or 3 years ago into now. We're actually putting some rubber to the road and including that in the curriculum. And our faculty staff are going to get trained in sort of an inventory of where we are on a diversity spectrum. STEM is a huge part. And when I have been preaching about participation, and you all see those numbers, 80% plus, we had a grant awarded to us from Guazetta that made this happen. So when you think of STEM and STEAM, don't think of these 5 things put together in one classroom, but think about how it's integrated in every single lesson that is being planned. We're going to have some incredible guidance from this. That grant, which is the next slide, gave us some resources that St. Benedict's has never seen the likes of before. So $500,000 going into a program like this over 3 years. You all are going to see those first 3 initiatives happening next year. If you have siblings or children coming up in the back of your graduating 8th graders next year, these are the things that you can look forward to. And you all know our strategic plan objective has been space. And as we look at space and we expand, COVID hit us early, I guess, in last second semester. So we were able to take this idea of how do we incorporate our plans for COVID, expanding of 4th grade into our facilities program. And that Danco building that you all know is now called the Hive. We were able to acquire that and control it and then put it into our strategic plan. So we haven't lost any momentum because of COVID as we move forward into facilities. There was one piece of property in the next slide that you all remember north at the top of this that we were looking at, 4.2 acres. Currently, main building is on number 1. The Hive is number 2. Your children are housed in number 3. Because we were not able to move forward with that north property, we have a plan B. So the plan B, if you have siblings coming up or friends who are looking at St. Benedict's middle school, could possibly move on to the blacktop on the main campus. So the blue building there to your right is the main building. The pink would be our middle school. And if you think about the 10 classrooms that are in the current South Campus, this is going to expand into 15 classrooms. And that's 3 sections for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. That leaves room, as you know, for us to add specials into those extra classrooms. We're not going to immediately fill our middle school with 3 sections of each class. We will slowly grow into those, or we will stay the same. That was not a COVID cough. That was a dry throat cough. And that'll allow us to have all our specials housed in one place. So you are looking at phase 3. of a phase 5. Phase 4 would be, if we do expand, those yellow buildings would be our specials. We would be able to build that in phase 4. And then phase 5 is the gymnasium where the current Hive is located. So the good news is that we've already accomplished phase 1. We were able to renovate the Hive and accomplish that. Phase 2, we will be doing, again, underneath the guise of any kind of marketing. We'll be doing that silently. So phase 1 was silent. Phase 2 will be silent as we look for the folks who can support purchasing the land. Phase 3, 4, and 5 don't have dates because of what we're going through right now. When does that start? It really starts when we're able to look to the future and know what we're doing. So we want to thank you so much for all that you have given, are doing. If you know anyone in the next slide who would be interested in those next phases, please let us know. Large gifts are what it's going to take. It's silent, again, as we said. So being able to support the mission of St. Benedict's, which is really a unique mission in Smyrna. People who are interested in Smyrna know that corner of Smyrna, know how well we have transformed it and will continue to transform it. So share anybody that you know with myself or our CFO, Christy Brown. And something I'd love to do once COVID stops is to get some friend raising together, which basically looks like bringing together people in a circle, having a meal, sharing some barbecue, or a few adult beverages. So again, this is our next phase. One of the other major objectives in our strategic plan, we brought Angela on a couple of years ago to accomplish this. We do in our 4 walls what most schools do in a big campus, and Angela is a big part of that, and she's going to take it from here. So Angela.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for tuning in this evening. I hope that day 1 of remote learning went well today. I heard from the teachers that it did, so I hope you're hearing the same thing at home. You know, you've kind of heard this before. This will be your last year to hear this, I guess, because you know y'all are in your next year, in your last year at St. B's. But you know, everything that we do here in the classroom is rooted in research, standards, and best practice. And you know, as educators, we're constantly researching and sharing ideas and looking at what best practice is. All of that is grounded in standards. Every school has standards, but then it's what you do with them and what you do with the students to help engage them in higher order thinking and engaging activities that really makes the difference. And so you see all of that come to life, not only through the curriculum, but also through the pedagogy. And so curriculum is what we teach, the pedagogy is how we teach. And then naturally, we're constantly kind of keeping an eye on things through assessment. So, you know, assessment's happening every day through observation. Obviously, it's happening through, you know, traditional tests and quizzes and projects. But, you know, those are all 3 major components to high success at St. B's. And then last year, we connected with this company called Right Research to create for us a customized assessment management system specifically for St. B's. And so what this does is actually from all levels, from preschool up through 8th grade, it is a database for all of our assessments that we might do. And, you know, what makes kind of the most sense for you all at this level are the ERB scores. And so houses all of that. And then we are able to kind of manipulate that data and see trends and dive a little deeper either in our planning or, you know, if we want to add something. So pre-COVID, you know, we are always thinking a year ahead. COVID has slowed that down a little for us. But, you know, over a year ago, we set forth our 2020-2021 priorities, which is what we are in right now. And, you know, as we pulled these up to, you know, share with you our progress, you know, we are realizing that a lot of those goals were set at the middle school level here. And we certainly have made lots of progress on those. And so, one of our goals was to expand the 5th grade to 3 classes, and we did that. We invited 5th grade officially into the middle school, if you will. And in doing so, we're able to really emphasize a middle school culture this year. And, when we started in August, we weren't sure how that was going to go with COVID restrictions. And let me tell you, what I love about South Campus are still all of the classroom competitions that we do, and the announcements, and the jokes, and you can hear laughter just the whole way through the building. And that's something that's really sweet and unique about South Campus. As Brian mentioned, the STEAM program has been in development for several years, even before I came. And so we are certainly making headway on that, and really excited now with the addition of the grant, so that you will be able to really see next year a lot of STEAM activities. Your students have been engaged in STEAM projects for several years. Most of the time, students don't even realize they're doing them. Pretty much everything that they're doing when it comes to a project is integrated in some capacity, whether it is math and science, or history, and maybe even language arts or art. That's all STEAM. And so you're going to certainly see even more of that in their 8th grade year. And then faculty retention and growth. And, that is very important to us to maintain consistency, but also just to maintain our high standards. And, certainly as a faculty, we have all engaged in a lot of professional development this year via technology. And our middle school teachers may have been hesitant last March when I said, hey, we're going to do this thing called Zoom. And you're all going to teach from home on screen. And I know that many of them were like, what is this going to look like? And let me tell you, they have been the rock stars of St. B's, our middle school teachers, because they are Zooming every single day. They have figured out very quickly how to make those dual learning platforms, the at-home remote learners and our in-person students, just be as seamless as we can possibly be. So I know your children are definitely ready for 8th grade. And I bet you are too as parents. So we are really excited to see your students advance and be our campus leaders next year. So one thing that really remains very similar is your 7th and 8th grade core teachers. And this is really great for education when you do have a team of teachers that, kind of goes over 2 different grade levels, because they already know your children, and there's no time lost trying to get to know their different learning styles. Our Spanish teacher from 7th to 8th will change. However, many of your children have had Mr. Senor Otero, in the past. And so we have a few of our teachers that we're going to hear from this evening. And then the rest of our middle school team. And I think that these are all very familiar faces for you, but student support the entire way through is really important for our middle school experience. And, we provide that in a variety of ways. Not only do they have, their 5 core teachers, but they have this entire support team as well. Everything from school counselor to, learning resource, our middle school dean, our chaplain, and then all of our co-curriculars, and of course, Nurse Sue. All right, so what we really want to do is just give you kind of an overview of the courses. And, you are all deep in pre-algebra right now. I know that they took their exam today. We postponed the exam one time, and we're in quarantine again for the rescheduled exam. But I talked with Mr. Ash, and he said that he thought that it went pretty well today. So next year, everybody will be in advanced algebra. We have realized that, it is much better for all of our students to differentiate by student and not by class. And we do that anyhow. And, math was really the only area where we had a class designation of like on level and advanced. And, we've explained that to you from the pre-algebra standpoint as well. Everybody will be taught at that advanced level and then differentiated for those that may need some additional help. And so you can see some of the different topics there, just an extension of pre-algebra from this year. And then I'm going to let Ms. Drake talk about science topics.
Hi, everybody. I do want to also say we had a great day in 7th grade for science today. So I'm hoping this week still goes well. So for next year, it's totally physical science as our topic, whereas, this year it is life science. So we do break it into 2 different components. The first semester is chemistry, where we're going to learn the basics of what our chemists and organic chemists do. We focus a lot on the periodic table and how our atoms are moving around and combining to make elements. And we do get to do some experiments, which are fun. So I'm hoping that if COVID lessens in the fall, we can do more experiments. But we are still able to do them individually. So that's still good because the school supplies us with enough materials, thankfully, for students to do multiple things at once. And then the second semester, which I just started last week with the 8th graders, is all physics. So we start off learning a lot about motion and Newton's laws, which is really exciting. I think physics really grabs them in 8th grade and allows them to see things. There's so many great opportunities for us to build in physics, to demonstrate how motion moves, to demonstrate gravity. And my favorite part of physics for the 8th graders, as Ms. McKenzie knows, is at the end of the year, we build something called Rube Goldberg machines. If you don't know what they are, you might like to look them up, but everybody, once you see one, you know what it is. And I think that's a great way to put the whole semester together. So I'm really looking forward to 8th grade with all of your kiddos. If you have any questions about chemistry, let me know.
And Ms. Shiflett, you want to tell us a little bit about U.S. history next year?
Yeah, so some of you who have siblings might be a little confused this year why we're all doing modern world history. But that was a thought process that Angela and I thought last year to switch around due to the county standards, the state standards, and what is really out there. And so to put the US history in 8th grade seemed like a really logical step for us. Along with that, you're taking 6th grade ancient history and then going directly into modern history. So the linear transition seemed like it was a better fit. So I am really looking forward to taking your kids into US history next year and really exploring the states and the government and of course all of our fun little issues and that we have as we go along. And that dictates a lot of what we do. You can say, okay, today we're going to talk about I don't know, colonization, and somehow you get off into what's happening in Washington, D.C. today or that. And that's the fun part to me about history itself, because I get into that as well. I don't like to think that I have focus problems, but it happens. We get off into subjects and there you go. But I really am looking forward to doing US history. We'll have some new curriculum for that. And of course, our online textbooks, which are really amazing. Sticking with the company that we're with for our modern world history, the interactive part is just phenomenal. So if there's, I'm really looking forward to this, and I know your kids will really enjoy it as well. And I have really gotten to enjoy meeting and getting to know some of the students I didn't teach last year, because this is the first time I've not taught 6th grade yet. Let's put it that way. So, so I am looking forward to that, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. And if all goes well and they get to do their DC trip next year, then this will certainly be a better lead-in for them. Mm-hmm. So here's hoping.
Excellent. Thanks, Ms. Shiflett. And Ms. Harrell, talk to us about 8th grade English.
Absolutely. Yeah. So hi, everybody. I wanted to just say that I am really enjoying teaching your children. I was looking through kind of the little list of everybody who's on here and thinking like, oh, that's Julie's dad and that's, Parker's mom. So I am really excited to have them again next year. I think that's going to be so fun. And in English, we're doing all of the traditional fixtures of an English curriculum. So writing essays and keeping up with grammar practice and lots of reading and discussion. I have a really discussion heavy classroom. So I'm trying to teach the kids, to speak up in class and that their ideas are valid even when we're tackling some more complex texts. So we're just going to keep going with that in 8th grade, and I'm going to work with them to make sure that they're all confident with their essays for their applications for high school, because I know that those are on the horizon for them. But I am not too concerned because we have a lot of strong writers in this group. But yeah, so we're going to work on that. And then one of the things I've been working towards with the English curriculum is, keeping a lot of the traditional texts that have been read for a long time, because a lot of them are really valuable. So, keeping Shakespeare in the mix and all of those fixtures, but also trying to bring in some more contemporary readings that feel maybe a bit more relevant to our students and to what is going on in our world, and opening up some discussions about current events and current issues. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to next year. Thank you, guys.
Excellent. And next slide. We have Spanish. I just want to make sure that Senor Otero is not on here. He was not able to be with us this evening, but Spanish 8 is, at St. B's, the pinnacle of all of their years. And, what's fabulous, and I hope that you all see it at home, although you may not, because often your children they know so much more than they're sharing with you, especially in the Spanish language. And they definitely understand it at such a high level that, as they graduate 8th grade and move into high school, they're going to be, testing out of those first levels of Spanish and testing into Spanish 2 and sometimes Spanish 3. So, I know that between Senora Ford and Senor Otero, they are really pushing the 7th graders and the 8th graders this year to really kind of step up their game with conversation. And so you're going to definitely be seeing that not only this year as 7th graders, but as they move forward into 8th grade. And then religion, you are in the first course of this 2-year Religions of the World course with Mr. Wortman, actually Dr. Wortman. And their class discussions are quite fabulous, and they really dive in to a lot of respectful conversation, and love listening in to the things that he has to share and what the students have to share as well. And then this year took a little bit of a different turn. I know that in previous years, as our students have been able to choose their co-curriculars. And so, this year everybody's taking everything. And so, I think that it has, in the end, been really fabulous. And they have gotten exposure to art and music and band, and maybe they wouldn't have tried it, so some of them may have found an interest that they didn't realize they had. And so, as we look toward next year, obviously everybody will have PE and fine arts. At the moment, we don't know what type of COVID restrictions will be in place. Our hope is that they will be able to move about the building and switch classrooms, and the teachers would stay put next year for the most part. And that, students could mingle more, and that they would be able to choose their fine arts electives. So, you know, we're doing a lot of this right now and seeing where those COVID trends go. But we've got plans in place for every possible scenario. And we have been able to, you know, certainly have a pretty robust advisory program this year. And we do that on Thursdays. And Miss Malloy leads that. The teachers run them in the classroom. She, you know, creates the lessons, provides them, and she does lead advisory for our remote learners as well. We moved tutorial into the school day this year. You know, last year it was Tuesdays and Thursdays after school, and all of the teachers were in their rooms. And we are looking at that model for next year, if we can go back to that, because that does allow us to put some of the other things into the school day. We've also, you know, this year carved out a special period for our clubs. And so, you know, this year also was a little bit different as far as being able to offer how many clubs could we offer. We used to do lunchtime clubs, and, you know, students could kind of choose by semester. This year we have decided that student council is really important from a student leadership perspective, and your students engaged in student council at the beginning of the year, and they are as 7th graders now in Helping Hands. And it is flipped for the 8th graders this year. So your students as 8th graders next year will definitely have an opportunity to engage in both of those groups. Yes, Ms. Shiflett, Yearbook Club is also happening. We have to plug that because we need help with that. We always want students to join in and participate with that. These are all great clubs and skills to kind of have under their belt before they hit high school. But, you know, in the past, we've had debate club and beta club and some other things. And so, you know, there'll definitely be a robotics club and some STEAM activities. And so you're going to see in 8th grade an opportunity for the students to really engage in some pretty fantastic academic and service organizations. And we love to show off what they can do, and they love to show off too. So, you know, this year we weren't able to have y'all come to campus, but again, we're hoping to bring that back next year. And our fall festival turned out to be really great. Our co-curricular teachers planned this fabulous day outside with the changing leaves and the perfect fall weather, and then it poured rain. So, you know, best laid plans, right? So we have learned to always have 2 sets of plans this year. That is, I guess, the one thing that COVID has taught me. But it was really fantastic because then we were able to video it all and send it out to y'all. And I think in the end, it worked out fabulously. We had a really great day. You can see in the pictures there, from wigs to folk dancing in the Commons. Again, our winter holiday concert, we had a few hiccups as we had to, you know, leave school a little early, but we have high hopes for our spring fling. So, you know, you will get those videos as well, and you'll be able to see some of the cool things that they've been focusing on all spring. And then as 8th graders, they will engage in chapel talks. And so they will work with CPC all year in different aspects, and she will help to coach them individually for their chapel talks. And I know that you have certainly heard some of those from former 8th graders, and they are very heartwarming. So an example of an 8th grade schedule is quite similar to a 7th grade schedule. You know, I would say the biggest difference next year may be that tutorial is not within the school day, but potentially, you know, on those Tuesdays and Thursdays again. You know, everything else pretty much stays very similar to this year. And the other really awesome piece that we're hoping to bring back next year are our Bee Buddies, and your students get to mentor the kindergartners. And this is such a special relationship, kind of as the oldest and the youngest in the K-8 spectrum. Our 4th graders, being the oldest in the lower school, are the ones who mentor our preschoolers. And, you know, so we really wanted to have our students establish those bonds. You know, we worked with our current 8th graders at the beginning of the year to say, what do you think? Like, how could we do it this year on Zoom? And this is the example right there, right? Nothing can replace those smiles of seeing that student in person, right? And developing those in-person relationships. And so we decided best to put it on hold, and we'll be even more excited to bring them back next year. And then we are always proud of your children and our students, but certainly I hope there were lots of little dinner table celebrations here in the last couple weeks, as many of your students qualified for either honor roll or headmaster's list from first semester. All right, I am going to turn it over to Ms. Shemansky as she helps you to get ready for high school.
That is definitely the most exciting part of the 8th grade year. I know that exciting might be in quotes for some of you, but it is one of the favorite things that I do. I love working with you and your child and helping to find the right fit for what the next 4 years will bring to them. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of a sneak peek as to what you can expect with that. But the ins and outs of outplacement, some of the things that you're going to be thinking about with my guidance and my help is, where do you start and when do you need to start, and have you begun thinking about public or independent? What's important to you in finding a high school? What is important to your child in finding a high school? Creating lists, talking about standardized test prep, visiting. Many of our counterparts with high schools have done some in-person tours. They're starting to bring those back. And so I am very hopeful that by the time your children start to look at high schools, that would be more of an option for that than they've had this year. It's really hard to get a sense of a community without visiting. And then outplacement roles with you and your child, and talking about how we're going to support you along the journey. And here is an outline of what you can expect. This spring, we start soon. So this spring, we're going to have an outplacement presentation. This is going to be, I did one of these, 2 of these actually last year, or in the fall rather, and they were kind of a target audience of anybody in the middle school who wanted to attend, but this is really going to be for 7th grade, rising 8th grade families, so that we could talk about how you can get a jump on some of this and how we can start thinking about this together. And then what do you need to be doing in the spring as you start thinking about coming out for summer and thinking about standardized test prep happening over the summer and research begin happening over the summer. And the one thing I can say that I hope you will talk about to your children now is, as much as I am not the person who wants to harp on the grades and the scores and the staying engaged, it is important for high schools to see the spring 7th grade report card. And so that's a big part of them finishing this year up strong and going into the fall of their 8th grade year ready to shine, because those are the 2 things that those are the 2 periods, the 2 semesters that are looked at the most. So even though it's spring and we all get a little bit of spring fever come after spring break, they have to stay engaged. And I'll talk to them about that too as we start talking about the timeline with them. But in October, you're going to be setting up some accounts. You're going to begin and finish some test prep if you haven't already done that, list of schools. And this goes all the way through. This timeline will go all the way through with you until April. February, you find out about magnet school acceptances. In April, you find out about independent school acceptances. But we will talk through all of this timeline in a lot more detail when we have our spring presentation of the ins and outs of outplacement. So as I said, what can you do now? Start thinking about grades, step it up, don't let it up, keep moving, keep plugging ahead, plan for summer. One of the things that I really enjoy about this role is taking a proactive look at thinking about summer. So plan activities and service that defines you as a student and speaks to your students' interest. Start thinking now about the things that will show the kind of person you are to high schools, and start showing the kind of leader you have become, because that's what we have been working towards the whole time you've been at St. Bede's, whether you started in preschool, kindergarten, or 7th grade. You are we have been working intrinsically and organically to prepare you for this step. Start researching, talk to other students, talk to parents. It's an important time to have conversations about where are they looking and what do they like, and finding where students have landed. And I going back to the slide that was in Brian stated the school, you know, we have got a lot of success in getting students into high schools of their choice. So we have had traditionally children attend every high school independently, apply and be accepted to every high school in Atlanta. And then we have a good number of families that have applied and been accepted to the Cobb Magnet programs. And those are the conglomerate of 7 schools. Hopefully you've heard about those by now. 7 schools that have an advanced curriculum within Cobb County. You do not have to live in their district area to be able to apply into those programs. They all have a specialty and a unique focus. And we will explore all of that as we begin our outplacement together. And it's a great time for us to talk through hopes and dreams and talk through long-term goals. And for those of you who haven't heard, not only are we now tracking where our students are going for high school, but our first graduating class of 2016 are now halfway through their freshman year of college. We have 2 at Georgia Tech. We have 2 at Kennesaw State. We have 1 at Minnesota State and 1 at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical Academy down in Daytona Beach, Florida. So we are continuing to keep in touch. I ran into, just this morning getting coffee, I ran into a mom from the second graduating class, and she's already been at early acceptance into Tech. She's applying to some very, very prestigious schools on her list, and she's in the midst of making decisions right now. And I know one of the students has already been accepted to SCAD. So we've got a lot of exciting things coming to report. We're keeping up with all of that. And by the time we have our outplacement presentation in April, we will be able to report on where some of those students are going to be going too. So that college slide's going to get a lot bigger.
And before you go away from these slides, we go back one, and folks, if you want to ask any questions, this is the time to do it. I think Dr. Russell wanted to see this last slide. Is that the one you wanted to see? You put it in chat. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, that's it. I wanted to show Miles that grades matter. Step it up.
I love you, Miles, if you're sitting right there.
We miss you today anyway. Yeah, so we want to open it up to questions. If you all have any questions from the very beginning, you all have been here since we articulated the first words of our strategic plan to the inevitable, which I probably guess there's a few tears in your eyes thinking that you were here back when they were just entering kindergarten, but they're about to graduate. So questions from anyone about anything? I can't believe it. I'm looking through the names here and I am stunned.
I have a question.
Silence. Yes.
So you spoke earlier about the database that you guys use to look at ERB test results, et cetera, and then you use that to make any changes to curriculum. Is there anything you're changing in the 8th grade curriculum based off of what you've seen from the data?
I think the biggest thing is Mrs. Shiflett shared, and that's sort of flip-flopping our history. Jackie, do you want to share anything more about that, or Angela?
Yeah, I can take a look at that. You know, I think that is, like Father Brian said, probably the biggest change or shift that we were making. And when I came in, I started talking with Jackie at the very beginning of last year about that shift, just having also worked in other, states in my career, and then coming into the Atlanta area and looking at kind of the levels of progression of history in this area, through public and private. And so in addition to, the potential for the DC trip, that also made a lot more sense as a culmination, having really focused on, 8th grade. We did not take the ERBs this past spring. So we are planning to take the ERBs this spring. And, again, we'll have we just we continually look at data. But again, it is only one measure of, everything that we do. Our day-to-day assessments, our day-to-day observations, really, certainly outweigh just a test that is only given on one snapshot. It is a snapshot. As all assessments are a snapshot in time, whether it's the test they took today for pre-algebra or whether it's the ERB. But when we look at all of that together, that's what that, allows us to do. So.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll just add, not just beyond curriculum, there have been a few students over the summer before they enter 8th grade that they want to see something happen. Helping Hands is a big part of St. Benedict's now, but it was a 7th grader entering in 8th grade who bit my ear with some of her friends and said, "Can we do something more?" So if there's anything that your kids want to see, this is the year that they really stamp their presence at St. Benedict's. And that's why, back to Anne, talking about pre-K through 8th grade, you all been here through the 8th grade. This is the year that they can make a mark. Obviously, some of our students are more outspoken than others, but an email from a soft-spoken student has a lot more power, in my opinion, and Angela, and you can reiterate that, than somebody who's just in my face saying, "Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do this? Can we do that?" So if there's something you all want to see that your students are missing out on, or they thought that they would get and they're not getting, anytime during that year, this is the year. It's a small class. Every 8th grade has been, and we're a small school, so we can pivot and we can make it happen.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of student-led clubs, and so when I had just come to St. B's and Father Brian said, "I want to introduce you to Reese," who was the one who created Helping Hands. And I was like, this is right up my alley because I love this. Not only is that service aspect, but it's the students stepping up saying they really want to see the change. And so, all of your students this year, I would love for them to just come to us. They can come to Father Brian, myself, Mr. Mansky, teachers, anybody, and say, "Hey, wondering if we could do this next year." Almost always it's a yes. And we're just hoping that we can always say yes. And even if we've got COVID restrictions, we find a way around it. It might be a Zoom club, like your book has had to be.
And what a great foundations for high school essays. So, you
yes.
think about a way to begin to really show who they are and what they do. That's a great example to be able to use that as a springboard for highlighting that that aspect of their personalities. And this is a school, you can't do that in every school. It's one of the benefits of being in a preschool through 8th grade, is where we really want to hear them as leaders. And this is a great place for them to be able to show that off.
Happy, I saw you unvideoed yourself. Do you want to share anything? You're muted. Happy, you're on mute.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I have an 8th grader, and so we're going through the process of the application and the test taking, and Anne and Father Brian have been very open and very available to us during a somewhat stressful time period. And it is a little bit different because of COVID. But there's a lot of options out there, and I would just say do a lot of research and get the information. And Akash does have a top school, but we have applied to many different schools, I guess, just for safety, I suppose, or comfort. But thanks, Anne, and thanks, Father Brian, for all your help through this.
Yeah, we get to know your kids pretty well, and we know what's a stretch and what's a safe in between. A lot of our students are going to get into just about every school that they want to. If there's any reason why we think you should probably look this way as opposed to that way, it's based on their personality. It's not necessarily based on their academics. So
But it is fun to have started this journey with your children. I mean, I was here when they were kindergartners, and so I remember those little ones coming in and doing that full circle with them, that seeing it from the beginning and then seeing them come where they come full circle, and looking at these schools and visioning them in these communities and in these academic opportunities that they have so many options for. It's one of the best things that I do in my day. So it's an honor to be able to work with you all to do that. And finding the right one will happen. It's intimidating, but one of the things I echo when we talk about a preschool through 8th grade is I want you to understand from a parent perspective, and I'll talk a little bit about this in our outplacement presentation, of what a great process this is of self-realization, not only for you, but of your children, to figure out how they learn, to figure out what's important for them. The physical act of checking off or taking away a school because it doesn't meet these things and it has these things is such a powerful gift that you're giving to them, to be able to have an opportunity to have a voice in this process. And then as I learned as a parent with my oldest, just when she applied off to school, that college process isn't quite so scary because they've gone through this once before and they know exactly what they need to do to prepare for it. They know they can't wait till the day before an application is due to check all of these steps off. And it really is the epitome of self-advocacy, because I remember sitting as my daughter was a senior, and one of the speakers they brought in to talk to us as parents about what this is going to be like as you embark on this senior year said, if your child can't do this application and your child can't figure this out on their own, they have no business going off to college. And all I could think about was they don't know how to automatically do it. And all I could think about was the modeling that we're providing for them as we walk them through the process as 8th graders is exactly the modeling that they need to be able to take that control and be able to do it themselves. And so this is, you know, I know how scary and intimidating the process can be, but it's such a gift that parents are given, and way far down the line when your kids are freshmen in college, you'll see it too, I think.
Tiffany, did you have a question, or was that Olivia that wanted to talk to us?
I was just thinking, clearly, Olivia, before you know it, it's going to be Olivia. You're sitting here with Olivia.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you guys. You know how to reach us. This week, you can literally pull up to the front door and one of us walk out and meet you because the 5th grade is pretty much the only folks that occupy that space. So thank you for your flexibility this year. Thank you for your trust in us over the many, many years. And we look forward to next year and sending your little babies into the world as freshmen in high school after the end of next year. So thanks so much for the evening.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Olivia.
Bye.
Get some sleep.
Yes, right. Now.
Olivia was our most attentive attendee, I think.
Good night.
Good night.